Do you ever wonder why we feel burnt out, overwhelmed, or taken for granted? Could it be that we've neglected an essential aspect of our lives, setting boundaries? Boundaries are as crucial to our lives as the walls of our homes. They delineate where we end and where others begin, forming a protective barrier around our personal space, our feelings, and our well-being. Just as a fence shields a garden from unwanted intruders, boundaries guard us against the emotional intrusions that can drain our energy and peace of mind. Like borders on a map, boundaries help us define our unique identity. They serve as guidelines for how we want to be treated and what we're willing to tolerate. They're not just about saying no. They're also about saying yes to ourselves, to our needs, and to our values. Imagine a life without boundaries. It's like a house without walls, exposed to the elements and trespassers. Boundaries, then, act as invisible shields, safeguarding our emotional and personal territories. Imagine living in a house without walls. How secure would you feel? Relationships without boundaries are no different. We all crave connection, but when we don't establish boundaries within our relationships, the very connection we seek can become a source of distress and discomfort. Without these invisible lines, we risk losing ourselves in the sea of other people's wants, needs, and expectations. We become susceptible to feeling exploited, disrespected, or emotionally drained. This can lead to resentment, a poison that can deteriorate any relationship over time. Let's take a step back in time and explore the ancient wisdom of the Stoics. These philosophers from long ago understood the significance of personal boundaries. They believed in the principle of prosoph, which roughly translates to attention to oneself. This principle emphasizes the importance of self-awareness and self-care, both of which are impossible to achieve without setting personal boundaries. Marcus Aurelius, a notable Stoic philosopher and Roman emperor, once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This wisdom is a clear testament to the importance of boundaries. It emphasizes that we cannot control how others behave, but we can control how we react and how much we let their actions affect us. In relationships, this wisdom translates to understanding and asserting our needs and limits. It means standing firm when these boundaries are challenged and not allowing ourselves to be swayed by guilt or the fear of displeasing others. Without boundaries, we expose ourselves to the whims and desires of others, surrendering our peace of mind. We become like a leaf in the wind, tossed around by external forces. But when we establish clear boundaries, we anchor ourselves. We become the masters of our own lives, capable of standing strong amidst the stormiest of seas. So next time you find yourself feeling exploited, disrespected, or emotionally drained in a relationship, remember the wisdom of the Stoics. Remember that you have the power to protect your peace. Remember the importance of setting boundaries, because without boundaries, we expose ourselves to the whims and desires of others, surrendering our peace of mind. Knowing the importance of boundaries and the risks of ignoring them, how then do we go about setting these invisible shields? Well, let's dive into the practical steps. The first step is recognizing and acknowledging your personal limits. Yes, you heard me right. Every journey begins with self-awareness. It's about knowing what you can tolerate and accept, and what makes you feel uncomfortable or stressed. Those feelings help us identify what our limits are. Like the ancient wisdom says, know thyself. It's as true today as it was thousands of years ago. You see, when you know yourself, you understand what you can comfortably endure and what you simply cannot. You become aware of your emotional landscape and how different situations or people affect it. This is your first step towards setting up boundaries. The next step is being assertive in communicating these limits to others. Now, this might seem challenging, especially if you're not used to asserting yourself. But remember, boundaries are not about limiting others. They're about taking care of you. So let your voice be heard. Stand up for yourself. Express your needs and wants clearly. Remember, it's not about being confrontational, it's about being honest and direct. And the third step, perhaps the most important one, is being consistent in maintaining these boundaries. It's not enough to set boundaries, you must also enforce them. This might mean saying no when you usually say yes, or stepping back when you usually step forward. It's about standing your ground even when it's uncomfortable. And lastly, remember the importance of self-respect in setting boundaries. You see, when you set boundaries, you are saying to the world and to yourself, I respect myself. It's a powerful statement of self-love and self-worth. So respect yourself enough to set boundaries. Respect yourself enough to live a life that feels good to you. Setting boundaries is a continuous process, a relentless assertion of our worth and values. So let's start today. let's start now, because you, my dear, are worth it. Boundaries may seem restrictive, but they are, in fact, liberating. Imagine having the freedom to say no without feeling guilty, or the ability to ask for what you need without fear of judgment. These are just a few of the liberating experiences that having boundaries can offer. Boundaries, my friends, act as a protective shield around our self-esteem. They help us recognize our worth and prevent others from treating us less than we deserve. Having boundaries can significantly boost our self-esteem because it is a continuous reminder that we value ourselves enough to protect our mental and emotional space. In relationships, boundaries are the difference between a healthy partnership and a one-sided affair. They ensure that we are not overstepping or being overstepped upon. With clear boundaries, we can express our needs, desires, and concerns without fear. We can have open, honest, and respectful conversations. These are the building blocks of a strong, healthy, and fulfilling relationship. Boundaries are also instrumental in improving our mental health. Living a life without boundaries can lead to feelings of being overwhelmed, anxious, or even depressed. On the other hand, having boundaries provides us with a sense of control and stability. It's like having a personal rule book that guides us on how to react, what to accept, and what not to tolerate. This not only reduces stress, but also promotes a sense of peace and balance. Moreover, boundaries allow us to control our lives rather than be controlled by others. They enable us to decide who we let in, how much, and under what conditions. This autonomy is empowering. It helps us make decisions that serve our best interests, leading to a life that is fulfilling and true to who we are. So let's shift our perspective and see boundaries not as limitations, but as liberating tools that help us take charge of our lives. Let's embrace them as a means of enhancing our self-esteem, improving our relationships, and bolstering our mental health. Boundaries, therefore, are not just walls. They are the doors and windows to our emotional well-being.